Well, the Channel Zero Love Fest has reached its final stop, so we're going to go out with a bang and talk about one final great season of television.
Have you ever been confused about whether something you remember was a dream or not? A memory so strange, it couldn't be real.
The Dream Door is directed by Evan Katz. It stars Maria Sten, Brandon Scott, Stephen Robertson, and Troy James. And it's an adaptation of the short no-sleep story Hidden Door by Charlotte Bywater. It tells the story of Tom and Jillian, a newly married couple who discover a door in their basement that wasn't there before. And what's behind that door may pose a threat to their marriage and their lives. The Dream Door is a season that I find criminally underappreciated. This was around the point when Sci-Fi as a channel stopped caring about Channel Zero altogether and did virtually no advertising. So there were a ton of people out there who didn't even know there was a season 4, and I'm hoping that this video will help make some people aware of that. It's a shame, honestly, because this is another truly phenomenal season of Channel Zero and a worthy successor to Butcher's Block. And what's shocking to me about the fact that so many people are unaware of it is that this is probably the most well-directed season out of all 4, and it's also the deepest and most meaningful and by far most relatable of the bunch. At least to me. On top of all that, it has the most fun and memorable monster in the entire show's history with everyone's favorite boy, Pretzel Jack. So once more, recap time. Jill and Tom are childhood friends who recently got married and moved back into Tom's childhood home, but there's some distrust in the marriage. Tom is keeping secrets, and Jillian has some crippling trust issues on account of the fact that her father had a secret other family when she was very young and left her and her mother. And she suspects an affair. This wakes up a latent ability she has to conjure real-life creations from her imagination. And out of that door that she created with her mind steps Pretzel Jack, a contortionist clown that she created as her imaginary friend when she was a child. But PJ isn't all cuddles, and he quickly proves that he's willing to kill indiscriminately to keep Jillian and her emotions safe. Jill ends up confiding in her neighbor Ian, who has the same ability, only to eventually realize that he's her super creepy, kinda incesty half-brother who's also a bit of a psychopath. And it's up to Jillian to learn how to control her powers not only to save Tom, but also to save their marriage. Like I said, this season is criminally underrated, and on a technical level, it's damn near flawless. Evan Katz's direction is something else entirely. The biggest inspirations for this season were Rosemary's Baby and Hitchcock films with a little bit of Cronenberg dabbed in there for some body horror, and it really shows through the visuals and the way that this story unfolds. The use of space in the cinematography of this season is absolutely brilliant. Katz utilizes a lot of incredibly wide shots in a lot of wide rooms and open spaces to make all the characters feel so small and powerless in the wake of what is happening around them. The Rosemary's Baby elements come into play with how the gaslighting element of the story plays out, putting you firmly in Jill's headspace by only delivering you little bits of information at a time, and that deliberate feeding of only pieces of information causes you to jump to the same conclusions that she's jumping to, even if they aren't the correct conclusions. It makes the constant feeling of paranoia a lot more palpable since you're basically living with Jillian's anxiety. Maria Sten does a fantastic job as Jillian, playing the guarded and vulnerable nature of the character perfectly. This was apparently her first acting role, and she nails it. There's a very naturalistic way she delivers her lines, and it makes all the pain and the paranoia and the grief and the distrust feel a lot more genuine. Brandon Scott is equally as fantastic as Tom. You can tell he really loves Jill, but there's so much baggage that she has, and he's trying to help her carry it without being vulnerable himself, and that's just not the way to go about a relationship like this. They play brilliantly off of each other, and it really only helps to cement the core of this story, which is a story about love and accepting someone in spite of their flaws and learning to let go of the past and your trauma. But let's be real, there's one star that shines brighter than everything else in this season, and maybe I'm being biased, but that star is Pretzel Jack. This character is by far the most entertaining character in the entire series, and probably one of the most memorable monsters from Channel Zero ever. His design is inspired, and he continually manages to be this perfect balance between creepy and playful and silly, and it just works so damn well, balancing that line perfectly. Nothing sums up the character better than his first real scene where he commits an incredibly brutal murder, only to then do a little silly dance for Jillian and exit the room with his hands smacking the doorframe on the way out. That scene at the end of episode 1 is what got me hooked on this season. Troy's bendy talents bring this physicality and body horror to the role. He's like a puppy, extremely lovable and protective toward Jillian, but also extremely willing to kill for her if necessary. And no scene better illustrates that lovable nature than the scene at the end of episode 3 when Jillian finally recognizes and accepts Pretzel Jack, resulting in this beautiful moment that, when combined with Jeff Russo's amazing electronic synthy score, creates one of my favorite scenes in all of Channel Zero, if not my favorite scene. There are some other monsters scattered throughout the season, mainly Ian's creations of Tallboy and the Crayon Crew, but none of them quite make the impact that PJ does. Tallboy's design is less than inspired, while the Crayon Boys are definitely inspired, but they don't get enough to do and only really get one major moment to shine in the finale. There aren't really many criticisms I can make of this series aside from a few small nitpicks. While I appreciate the rotating camera visual, it is definitely used a few too many times for my liking. There are several scenes where Ian has to eat food to regain his strength, and it's disgusting. It's actually nauseating. Like, watching him eat food ravenously is actually the most disgusting thing I've ever seen from this show, period. The only other issue I have isn't even really an issue because I understand why the story went the direction it did. It's just something I would have done differently, and I touched on it a little bit in my interview with Troy. PJ's death in the finale is something that broke my little heart. And I honestly just think that if the finale had ended with PJ being back and taking care of the baby for Jillian, it would have been perfect. And I understand why they didn't do that. As Troy said in my interview, a whole big part of the season is growing up and learning to put your toys away. But the boy deserved better, and I'm sad about it. Still, all that being said, the season is absolutely fantastic, and it just serves as evidence that Channel Zero is one of the best horror shows ever made. In my opinion, there wasn't a single weak season. There are seasons that are weaker than others, sure, but every single one was fantastic in its own right. And with Dream Door as its last, I think it stuck the landing. I'm gonna say that The Dream Door is a genre masterpiece. If you like feel-good emotional stories with gaslighting and murderous clowns and incest and proof that Barbara Crampton doesn't ever age, check this one out. Like all the others, it's streaming on Shudder, and I really hope you guys give it a chance, because Channel Zero, it's unlike anything I've ever seen before. Nick Antosca is a fantastic showrunner, and he created something truly unique. So, Shudder, if you're watching this, if anyone from Shudder is watching this, please bring back Channel Zero. Give it more seasons. It deserves it. It's fantastic. It's the kind of horror television that we deserve. As always, guys, thank you so much for watching. If you like this channel and you want to see more, click down there, like, comment, subscribe. There's a Patreon link down in the description if you want to donate to this channel and be like all these cool people right here. Please consider it. The financial situation I'm in right now is not great, and any money could help. You get all sorts of cool new reward tiers, anything from access to my private Discord server, to access to special videos early, to gifts sent right to your door once a month. If any of that interests you, please consider donating. I would appreciate it very much, but even if you don't, thank you so much for watching anyway, and I'll see you all very soon.
He made me feel safe.